Welcome to the For Everyday Leaders podcast. Brandon Faust, Alex Holt here with you today. Alex, tell us what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, this podcast is all about helping people lead in the everyday spaces and moments of life. And today on the show, we have with us Drew Larison. Drew Larison is a Kokomo native and the founder of the Kokomo Post. Drew founded the Larison Company in 2015 and merged the company into Larison Media in early 2017. Then in 2018, the Kokomo Post was born. And in 2020, the Kokomo Post expanded to be a go-to source for local infotainment. Drew's vision is to bring a positive online media presence that is for the people of Kokomo, by the people of Kokomo. Drew is a podcast host. He's involved in some real estate initiatives. He's incredibly involved in his local community. He's passionate about helping other entrepreneurs. He's a loving husband, a father, and a true believer that hard work and kindness is the true key to success.
Drew, thanks for coming, man.
Absolutely. This is nice. I actually had like a commute this morning. I usually don't. I live like 4 minutes from the office.
I love it.
So this was nice.
Good. Well, before we get to our great conversation with Drew, we want to let you know that this episode of the For Everyday Leaders podcast is sponsored by the Liston Lodge. The Liston Lodge is an event venue located in Hendricks County, just 35 minutes from downtown Indianapolis. The estate was a former gorgeous 22,000 square foot home, but is now a unique event venue that features elaborate woodwork, unique chandeliers, a cozy and homey atmosphere, and beautiful secluded grounds, actually 100 acres of secluded grounds. So whether it's for a special event, corporate event, or a wedding, please visit listonlodge.com. That's listonlodge.com. Drew, you and I met back in college.
Probably. I wasn't there long, but yeah, that's probably where we met.
But I was a little bit older than you. Mm-hmm. But so I remember you as a freshman in the Hodson Hall, and obviously was friends with your brother, so kind of knew you through that and say, hey, whatever. But we reconnected in recent years when I actually was speaking at your brother Joel's church, which we had interviewed him on the podcast previously. It's the first time we've had kind of the family
historic moment.
Mm-hmm. But I joke with people, like, between you and your brother, you guys like really do run Kokomo in a lot of ways. Like, you guys are
100%.
impacting, influencing Kokomo, and are pretty much lifers in Kokomo, which is a beautiful, rare, unique thing in this day and age. But we've partnered with your company on some things, with our company Switchback, and also our team here at Wayfinders. And I just like being around you, man. And I know that you have you have a unique story on your entrepreneurship journey. I think so many of that cross section of leaders that listen to this podcast are going to benefit from what you have to say, but also kind of your story and your journey. And I know it'll inspire some people. So tell us a little bit about, like, little Drew Larison growing up. What was that like for you? And then kind of how did you start moving towards this career pathway in the years ahead?
Yeah. So first off, happy to be here. I was driving, like I said, I had a commute today, which was really great. And it made me think, because a lot of times I'm like dropping off the kids and then I'm 4 minutes at the office and I'm going. So like having a moment to think was really nice, but I'm really happy to be here. My main thought was, being like a boss, being like a business owner can be really lonely sometimes. Yeah. And I'm walking into this today. I'm guessing you guys are hoping I'm going to teach you something, but also I'm like just really excited about to be here and probably learn something about myself or in general. So I'm happy to be here. So my life has been, some would say interesting, I guess. You want to know about like little Drew Larison?
Yeah, even just little, and then kind of through those high school years and then that college pathway, career pathway.
Sure. All right. So schooling. I was never a great student. I think, and it's interesting now having kids that are in school, seeing the changes in how schooling is done now compared to what I was a kid is very interesting, especially in Kokomo. My kids go to like this integrated arts elementary school. Like my daughter's in 3rd grade, so she's literally been learning violin for 4 years. Oh, wow. It's crazy. It's weird. Schooling to me was like you go, you sit, you listen, and you take a test. Like that was schooling, and I just wasn't built for that type of learning. Yeah. I was always like a hands-on guy, and there just wasn't that opportunity a lot until I like got to college. Which college was interesting. You said you met me at college. Funny thing about college, this was different than high school. Like if you don't pass your classes, they don't let you come back. It's weird. Yeah. There's like a term for it. I don't know what it's like. Flunking or something like that. So I was one of those kids. Hindsight now, I was in no way ready to just go off to college and do that. Yeah. So went to Indiana Wesleyan for a year, wasted so much money. But then I came home, like I got internships at IUK, which is like the Indiana University.
I didn't know that you were only there for a year.
I was there for a year. That's, like I said, like if you don't pass things, they don't let you come back. Especially when it was that expensive. And so I went to IUK, I got an internship, but I was kind of like just that classic kind of lost kid. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Specifically, I think my first major going to college was accounting, which is so funny now because I outsource everything financial for my business. I don't do any of that. I have like great companies that take care of that for me. But it's interesting. I went to college not really knowing what to do. I had a really funny accounting teacher in high school. I literally think that's why I chose accounting. Interesting. Which I could talk about college for a while now. I went there.
How do you really feel?
Man. Oh gosh, that's a different podcast. So I went there, had no idea what I wanted to do, came home feeling like a failure because literally I failed, still not knowing what I wanted to do. And somehow I met up with this guy who looked fancy, looked successful. And I literally just kind of asked him, like, can I talk to you? Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Because you look like you're enjoying life. And kind of talked to him. We broke down and like, I like people, I like technology, and I grew up in a small business owner home. So I feel like I like business. So my dad owned a business that my grandfather started. I'm a 4th generation entrepreneur now. So like it's literally DNA. Grew up, that's all I knew. So we broke those things down. I like people, I like technology, I like business. I think I'm creative. Where do we go from there? So he introduced me to this book, and silliest book title of all time, but it changed my life. It was a book called Crush It. It was by this guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, which you guys got to remember. You might know Gary V now. He's like crazy popular, crazy guy on the internet, right? This was his first book, and it was all about talking about this world that we're living in with the internet. There's zero excuse to be doing something that you don't enjoy for a living. And his like prime example is always like, if you are the biggest fan of the cartoon The Smurfs, you can... And like, this was an example because it really happened. Yeah. You can start a Smurf blog. Write about the Smurfs, break down episodes, sell ads on that blog, and you could literally make a living off of commentating on the Smurfs. So, and that just kind of blew my mind. And he said it all happens like this thing called social media marketing, and like it's Facebook, and like Instagram was a baby then. So we were very, very early on. I'm like, this is it. This is people. It's the social aspect. It's business. It's creative and technology, like all mixed in one. So I got into that.
That's cool.
I got an internship at local car dealerships that like I started their social media pages over 10 years ago now.
Wow.
Got the end of that internship through IUK, and I'm like, hey, this is going well. You guys gonna like hire me? And they were like, no, we're not. But luckily, like the work I was doing at one car dealership, another car dealership noticed that work. So literally I got this random, I think it was a Facebook DM. It might've been an email. I don't remember. I don't even know if Facebook DMs were a thing back then. And it was from a guy who owned another car dealership. He said, hey, I'd like to have lunch with you. I've seen what you've done at such and such dealership. Can we talk? So we talked. He offered me a job as the internet marketing director.
Wow.
And I had to make that decision. Do I go with the job that I would want after school? Or do I finish school or kill myself trying to do both?
Right.
I took the job. So I took the job, dropped out of school. I did not fail again, dropped out of school. And the rest is kind of history. I worked at that dealership for a year. That guy who originally kind of like mentored me and led me down the path, he called me a year after working at that dealership, said, hey, I'm looking for someone to be a social media director for my agency that I happen to own, called Web Success Agency is what it was. And then he flew up. He's originally from Peru, Indiana, lived in West Palm Beach. Web Success Agency was like remote before it was cool. We were like a full remote company 10 years ago. So he hired me for that company. I was the 3rd employee hired there. 3 years later, I kind of started itching, and I'm like, I think I want to do my own thing. Because what I've learned about marketing agencies, and a lot of other industries are like this too, you grow one of two ways, by either size of client or by number of client. And that's very common in the agency world. You're either growing by like, maybe you have 10 clients, but they're paying you $20,000 to $50,000 a month, or you have like 100 clients paying you $1,000 a month, you know? So they started going that route of size of client, and that's the route they were going to. But like the small business love in my head, I'm like, I don't know if I like that. I like, if I'm working with a company, we mean a lot to them, you know, because when we're working with the larger clients, they already have marketing departments. We're literally just being given the work they didn't want to do. And it meant a lot less. I literally spent my days typing meta keywords into blog posts, and we were making a lot of money doing it, but I just wasn't fulfilling. So I left, very clean break, friends with that guy to this day. And that's when the Larison company started, as you said. And then a few years after that, we merged it to Larison Media, because Larison company was literally just me in my house. Yeah. Like I was just working at home.
I was like when I first started, it was Brandon Faust Coaching. Very creative name.
Yeah.
Really
original. So it was Larison company, and then I hired some employees as we grew, and then Larison Media came. So that company as a whole just turned 7 in June.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's Larison Media, and then you talked about the Kokomo Post a little bit. And the Kokomo Post is fun. You
guys are always doing something wild, creative, ridiculous. Yes. Sometimes it's like, wait, is there like there's a sports thing now? You're interviewing the basketball team, and then you're doing cheers with like pizzas and tacos and the best. It's beautiful, man. I love everything. I'm like, it makes me want to be like, I want to go eat there in Kokomo, and I'm like, gosh, I have to wait till I'm like going up to see you or something like that.
Yeah, it is. So the Kokomo Post is fun. The reason the Kokomo Post exists, I was walking downtown from a coffee shop back to the Larison Media office one day. And the biggest thing about Larison Media that always got me was our competitors for like local business at that time were newspapers, radio stations, traditional media companies. Like, because we're really competing for marketing budgets of small businesses. Yeah. Because, you know, even though they do what they do, we do what we do, a business only has so much money to spend on marketing. So we're really competing for those dollars. Then I was walking by, and I walked by a newspaper that it's no longer open, called the Kokomo Perspective, and they had 2 awnings. They had 2 doors of their office. One awning said the Kokomo Perspective. One awning said Wilson Advertising. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. How's that set up? But then I remembered like the biggest thing they had on us is they owned the platform in which they were doing their advertising for their clients. Yeah. Yep. Like with us, a portion of it goes to us from the client for our time, our skill, and our knowledge. But then a big portion always has to go to Facebook. It goes to Google. It goes to Instagram. Yep. And like the traditional media, like, oh, they get all of that budget. Yeah. And I had that click. I'm like, oh, they have an advertising, and then they have the platform. Yeah. We could do that. Yeah. Larison Media could be the advertising. That's cool. We just need to build our own platform. Yep. So that's when the Kokomo Post became an idea, and I wanted to do it different. I like disrupting. I like coming into spaces that are comfy and like making them uncomfy. And that was an area we could do it because it was very traditional media. It was newspaper. It was 3-page articles. Yeah. There were no video happening. They really, what I like to say, they weren't respecting the internet enough. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a lot of traditional media, they don't respect the internet enough. And I've learned like they know what they know, and no one's inside of those companies pushing them to know more. Yeah. And so I saw like an opportunity. I'm like, man, BuzzFeed's blowing up. BuzzFeed in general, they started as a blog, and then they've got into this video world, and you can't get anywhere on the internet right now without seeing something BuzzFeed. Yep. Let's make a BuzzFeed for Kokomo and what that looks like, and like follow that same path that BuzzFeed did. Started off and you love the word infotainment. You know, it's information about and entertaining things going on and where you're at. But also BuzzFeed News exists now. Yep. 2 years ago, BuzzFeed News won their first Pulitzer. Like, they're doing it, you know, but they all started off these silly blogs about like, which Disney princess are you, you know? But like, we all love it. We've all love it. I'm Ariel, by the way. No, and so they started off with those type of content, but then they moved to hard news content, winning Pulitzers and things like that. They created the Listicle, which is like 10 reasons why, 10 things you need, 7 things on Amazon you need to buy. Like, they created that, and they really, I don't think they'll ever get enough credit actually for how much they changed the internet. But what they really changed was the expectations of how people expect what to see on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's a number and a reason or a 10 something, I'm clicking on that article.
Yeah.
Right.
So going back with seeing these other companies really not respecting it, not moving along with the times of expectations of what I call informational consumers. It's just internet users. We could do that. So the Kokomo Post started that, and it's working. It's fun. It's so much work. It's hard. We screw up all the time. But it's fun, and it's building just a really cool asset for our business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And within a year, we had the largest Facebook page audience within the Howard County area. We've got like over 40,000 people that follow our Facebook page now, hundreds of thousands of video views every month. So, I mean, it's nuts. It's cool.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
So, but what's really cool too for me is like the guy visioning all of this is like the two companies are really starting to work together now.
Yeah.
And they're such good sisters, you know,
Yeah.
and like Kokomo Post has the audience, Larison Media has the marketing expertise. Yeah. So like the goal of mine is if any advertising dollar is being spent in Howard County, I want it to go through our doors.
Yeah.
You know, whether you want those paid media buys, you want your logo in front of people, you want exposure, Kokomo Post has got you because we have the most eyeballs and ears in Howard County. Or you're looking for some like agency work for strategy and like building your business, we've got that too.
That's so good.
That's the goal.
Drew, and I think what's so fascinating, wonderful, all the things is that people think that everyone's path just has to be this up and to the right. Like oh man, like you know, the traditional route of, hey, he crushed it in school and he did all these things and he followed this path. And the fact that there was like a unique journey and story on the way, there was pain on the way, there's success on the way. And I was sitting, actually, we were having a meeting the other day, and one of the leaders in the room was speaking into some people who are actually starting new initiatives, right, for good in our community here, and going through our impact studio and that. And he said, you know, growth happens at the speed of relationships. And, you know, and it wasn't like he was saying it in some like transactional way. He was just like, you know, no. Growth that happens of anything we're going to produce in our own lives or something that we're going to create, always there's these highways that connect of meaningful relationships and people. And so that guy who was like, hey, you should try this, that car dealership that was like, hey, you should try this. It's just a beautiful part. And now you're the guy on the other side of that, being welcoming people in and building something that they can be proud of, that's making a difference, that is, you know, profitable, all those kinds of things. And I love it, man. I love just kind of your journey and your story. And I think for our listeners, it's just a reminder too, like you may feel like you're operating out of a deficit because you don't have this college degree and this and that. But I think, Drew, your story is so much about, we probably have a little bit more agency than we give ourselves credit for to go and try something, to, you know, activate a blog, to activate something, whether it becomes your business or just something that matters to you. Just go, just to push it, just to send it a little bit. And I love that about your story.
Yeah.
What's kind of been like a formative moment for you on this leadership journey in recent years? What's kind of been like this inflection point or something that was like a kind of a stop and pivot moment?
I mean, there's probably been so many. And because, like I said, I like to be in the realm of disrupting. So it feels like every day something happens. I'm like, oh, we're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, because even Larison Media, which is like that classic just agency for small businesses, even the strategies or the services we provide can change on a dime, because really we just follow attention is what we like to say. Like we don't get romantic about what we do for our clients or how we do what we do for our clients, because the world we're in, attention can change like this. I mean, talk like TikTok, right? Yeah. We're in a deep conversation right now. Like, how do we get our clients on TikTok? And like maybe we make a TikTok and it works. Like, okay, that's cool. We could do that. And like, it's being very flexible and not. I love that term too. We just don't get romantic about it. And a lot of business owners do. They get romantic about, I've done, whether it's marketing or honestly anything in business. We've always done it this way. And it's worked, not just worked, but like worked really well in the past. So why would I move?
It's almost like this purist mentality. Like this is the pure version of it, and not saying lacking integrity in it, but like you might have to change the platform, change the modality, change the delivery, change the ideation, start something new. that's something that we've talked about on our team. Like, we can't just be, because this, and this worked the last 3 years, we can't be so purist and it has to look exactly like this. Like, let's adapt, let's deliver it differently, let's segment things differently. And I think you guys have continued to do, I mean, that's allowed you guys to accelerate so quickly as a business.
We're very flexible. We can pivot on a dime, and it's kind of just become like our culture where people just expect it. And like when there's moments where an employee even will be like, make a suggestion that's crazy different. We never respond back to like, no, because that's not what we do. It's like, heck yeah, let's try it. You know? And like, we have that attitude of that, where it's just, we're always trying new things. Because especially when you look at the Kokomo Post, there's no blueprint of what we're doing. Like, there's no mentor for me. We're like, oh, is there another person in the world trying to make like a BuzzFeed for their small town of 50,000 people who have always got their information from a piece of paper? Like, there's no blueprint for that. So like, knowing that, you have to know, like, we're making our own map. And sometimes, like, what are those word drawings or the line maps that your kids have on the back of restaurant menus? Like, you're going to bump into a wall. Go back and find another path. I mean, it's just, it's an expectation now. It's just going to happen.
Well, and in the world, in the world in 2022, and also in running a media and marketing company, like, if you're not able to pivot, if you're not able to do that, like, your company's going to burn to the ground very quickly.
Well, it's funny too, because the reason we exist, or the reason we're still here, is because we are the company that has said for years, we aren't those other companies that don't pivot. We are not those companies that get romantic. So, I mean, it's like, it'd be very hypocritical of us as all of a sudden we get very romantic. And like, you know, it's, I guess that comment is really easy to make for someone starting a new business, because you don't have anything to be romantic about. But it's like 7 years in.
It's very
now
easy.
We start saying it, very hypocritical.
Well, and I think, so Stephanie Fernhaber, who was on an episode in recent months, talks about this idea of co-creation. And a lot of times we think that like we get feedback when we start something, but like as we continue to run things, what does it mean to co-create, giving those platforms and on-ramps for your team to suggest something, and instead of just, you know, being like, well, how are we going to do that? Or that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, wow, that's a great idea. We should really set up a brainstorm for that. Or things around like this curiosity to pull things out of your team to say, why don't you do some research on that and find that out is a beautiful, powerful, robust thing. And I think people are longing to be invited into those stories, whether it's just in our community, whether it's in, whether it's a problem in our schools or a problem in business, right?
Like, just collaboration, you know, and, you guys have also heard the term, obviously, like micromanaging. I am like a macro manager, probably to a fault sometimes, because it's that classic Steve Jobs quote, hire smart people so you don't have to tell them what to do. And I'm a full believer of that, to a fault, probably. There's probably, like, I give my employees way too much leeway sometimes, or don't check in enough type of things. But it's that, you know, I want them to feel creatively open enough where they are making their own decisions. And as well, if one of those decisions doesn't work out, I'm not going to be there like, told you so. You know, I'm like, I'll be there like, cool, what worked, what didn't, let's pivot and keep moving. You know, and some people are afraid of that because they think they might lose some money along the way, or lose money in a process along the way. I'm like, no, that's how great things get made, is that process. And as Kokomo Post is interesting too. So I talked a lot about BuzzFeed, but like another company model I'm kind of obsessed with right now is Barstool Sports. I think
they have blown up.
I know.
Recently.
I love how they're doing what they do. Portnoy, the El Prez over there, he's a Michigan man, so I respect that. Go Blue. That's right.
Always. We were both at the Big Ten championship game, even though we weren't there sitting together. We were.
I don't know what any of that means.
That's beautiful. This is why I love you, Drew.
So anyway, so the guy who started Barstool, he's a Michigan fan, so that was why that happened. But what they're really doing, and their attitude, they started off just as a newspaper about like sports gambling. Now they turned into like the website, and now they have a bunch of video content. But what Barstool is really looking at themselves as is a network now. We are an online network, and they'll hire a bunch of people in that have a podcast idea. And Portnoy, he constantly says, like, I don't tell my people what to create. I think if they're talented, if they've got grit and hustle, I'll hire them in, like, make it. And if it doesn't work, we'll find something else. But like, he's very loose on what he's allowing his creators to create.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I like the idea of the Kokomo Post being that, really looking at ourselves, not just like as a infotainment website and social company. I want to be a network, and I want like local people in Kokomo that have zero outlet right now to create things in this digital world we're living in. Kokomo Post can become that. You can come into our studios. We'll provide that. You'll create content, and it'll be on our networks. I mean, even that idea is crazy different than like a traditional local media company would be. It's like, no, there's journalists that work at that newspaper. I'm like, nah, I just want to ask like this random guy who has a podcast idea. I'm like, yeah, cool, come in, make it. You know, and even that. But I mean, I think I macro manage to a fault probably sometimes.
So I want to talk about that a little bit more, because I think that's the way I manage as well. Like that's part of my leadership DNA. And I do it to a fault as well. There are oftentimes my team will be like, hey, I actually need a little bit more from you than the freedom you're giving me. But talk about how you build that kind of culture and how you build that kind of a team. Because I think for a lot of people, they may be sitting there like, I don't even know how to take my hands off of the steering wheel and let my team drive and make decisions and have the freedom, because I've never done that. I don't know how to do that. So how have you built that into the culture of your company?
Oh man, what you just described, I think is a large issue in just America corporate world right now. And honestly, I think a lot of people suffer from it and they don't even realize it, but I'm talking about like workplace trauma.
Yes.
A lot of people that I've hired have had like awful bosses in the past. And like the first few months I notice it right away now. Where I'm just like, where they're terrified of being in the workplace. And then they take like the macro management that I give them as in like, I'm just mad at them all the time.
Like some sort of distance.
I'm ignoring them or
like
something like that. I'm like, no, I just want you to do what you do. You know, and like they have so much literal workplace trauma from the past that like there's a moment where like we really have to sit down like, that ain't it here. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm, portraying or want you to think. That's just how we do it here. So like figuring that stuff out early is a big benefit. But it's about hiring the right people, which of course it is, right? That's an easy thing to say, to hire the right people. But it's personality based. Creative world is really tough. I don't know. I've said for a while, like showing the world anything creative you make is one of the bravest things you can do as a human, especially the internet, because people are
they're
ruthless. The comments I get is so funny. And I just don't care anymore about comments. I've got to that point. There's a legendary comment on a podcast, literally a podcast, or literally on a podcast you talk, right? The only comment was Drew talks too much.
That's kind of what we do.
That's what we do. But of course, I reply back. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I do. But it was, but like it's putting out things like that. It's very brave, and it's one of the bravest things you can do is show the world your creative side. But when you get to the point of there's a good line of like caring what people think and truly believe in what you're doing, because you got to talk about like where I've been since I was 21, maybe 22, that annoying little kid in people's brains that has been like talking about digital marketing, saying it's not just the future, it's the present. Probably along the way, I've said some not nice things about traditional marketing and things like that. I've gotten myself in trouble many times. I joke that if I had a nickel for every time I heard, don't threaten people that buy ink by the barrel, I could retire. So I've been that for a while. So I'm just like, I'm desensitized to it. I just don't care, because I really believe in what we're doing. But then you got to find people that also believe it. And what's cool about the post is it's so public, which has been really weird for me, because Larison Media, we're a B2B company. Like if you don't know or don't own a business or happen to be in a position in a business where marketing is maybe on your job description, you probably don't know who we are. And I was okay with that because why I wouldn't care if people that didn't weren't in those roles knew about us. Kokomo Post is very different. We are to everyone.
In the general public all the time.
And consumers. So that's been really weird. But at the same time, I'm like, I see our numbers, the amount of, and this is going to sound arrogant, but like I'm getting recognized all the time which is awesome and terrifying, out in public, you know, because I do a weekly show with our mayor now. Yeah. So like a lot of people watch that, recognize that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't care like what people think of my creative because I believe in it so much.
Right.
And like I have the proof in that pudding
yes.
to show people if they ever come at me. And honestly, I've gotten to the point where if people really are criticizing in a ridiculous way, I'm like, I think they're jealous. Yeah, you know, I think like, and like, I hate that. Come join the party. I'm not like competing or anything like that. I don't know. I'm such and call it arrogance. I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, I really believe in what we're doing. But if you find other people, well, that's what I was saying. With the Kokomo post being very public, we're getting a lot more people saying they want to be involved. Yeah. And I'm like, those are my people. Yep. Like if somebody comes to me and is like, I love what you're doing. I get it. I'm totally sold on that vision. Yeah. I want to be a part of it.
That's cool.
Those are my people.
Yeah. Well, and I think going with any idea with conviction is a requirement, right?
Condition and like obvious risk too, because like I think people know the Kokomo post is a risk because it's different. It's very different than what Kokomo has seen, heard, or experienced in any way. Yeah. They know that it's an obvious thing who we're competing against for attention.
Yeah.
And they get that.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's such a reminder. I mean, we've talked about this on the show before, like we had this idea in like, I don't know, 2014, 2015 about a podcast and making it accessible for everyday people. And the targets have kind of changed and all this stuff. And then it was like, we got to go. Like we got to push go.
Do it.
We have to do this thing and we got to steward this idea well.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately when we sit on those ideas too long, it's actually a stewardship issue now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, no. There was a idea planted there from something that you experienced or some pain point or some passion thing. So whether it becomes like a company or a nonprofit or a holding company or just like this grassroots things that you do with your buddy because it's life-giving to you to talk sports or to do something around your community, push the blog, create the podcast, like just go and do the thing. And I think I love how you have continued to not just push this one thing and it's like, hey, we got a good business and all this stuff. You're like, no, there's
more.
There's this thing that's there that I want to do. And I know now it's kind of turned into this journey of how you're trying to help others do some things like that too, which is a beautiful, powerful thing.
It's I think I hunger at opportunity and like hunger at potential of things so much that like I'm like an Enneagram 3. If you're watching this, but also like score high on that visionary thing. So I just see things, and see that opportunity. I'm just like drooling at it. And, you know, I got sick. Like, I think you said the Kokomo post started in like, I started the Facebook page. I guess you can probably say it started back in 2018 and I kind of sat on it. You know, we did some stuff, we did some giveaways and honestly, it started off really well, even in the beginning that I kind of got bored at it. And then I had some moment where I'm just like, no, we need to freaking do this. And I think it was where Larison Media got to a point where I had just more time because I had more staff really running day-to-day stuff. I'm like, all right, I've got more time. Like, let's do this Kokomo Post thing. And of course, very similar to what Joel had talked about, actually, I hired my 2 first full-time employees for the Kokomo Post a week before shutdown, quarantine.
Wow.
2020. And one of them was a salesperson. And their second day on the job, I told them, I'm sorry, I can't have you going around selling things to small businesses that don't know if they're going to be open tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
So we figured it out. And, you know, one of those employees is still with us. And it was just crazy, you know? So like, I don't know, I've had a conversation this week with a guy who's like wanting to start a business and it's just so scary to a lot of people, but like, and it sounds hard and there's unknown, but I'm like, I've done it twice now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who cares? Life's hard.
I would say it is all of those things. Starting something new is all of those things. It is scary. It is hard.
I tell people this all the time too. Some of the best things in my life all started with terror and excitement.
Yeah. 100%.
Whether that's getting married, having kids, starting both businesses, buying a house, like all of these things that like any human could probably look back on as like, that was some of the best things in my life.
Yeah.
All started with terror and excitement. And like life in general is hard and scary, why not do things? I'm also a big believer in regret, and it drives my wife nuts because any like decision we have as like a family, I'm like, will we regret it? And if there's like 1%, yeah, we probably will. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care how it ends up because I'd rather not be 80, 90 regretting things. And like, I'm such a big believer on that. Yeah. You know, so like the Kokomo Post was that, and I'm just like, I'm sick of waiting. And we haven't talked about my wife, who's my business partner now. She left her great job at a local YMCA. She was like literally on such a beautiful career path with the Y, was doing things with the international Y. Like she was doing all the great things. But my wife was a journalist when I first met her. She worked at the Kokomo Tribune, which was the local newspaper. And she has this great media background. And I kept pushing her. I'm like, you should quit. You should join the Post. And she's like, no, like Post doesn't even exist. But even Aaron, who has to deal with my visionary stuff all the time, even Aaron wasn't a believer on the Post at first because she came from that traditional mind. Like I said, you got to remember, I said, they know only what they know. So she had a hard time seeing it. And until I took out one of those employees that I hired before quarantine, I took her and her husband out to dinner with Aaron to convince her to accept the job. That dinner, Aaron was like, oh, can I work at the Kokomo Post? And then it clicked.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So then we finally made it happen. And Aaron's the managing editor at the Kokomo Post now. So we've got, you know, working together and doing all that stuff. But I mean, we're in, man. That's great. It's just, Aaron is, she's I've like switched her brain, probably like think of regret as being your main motivator. You only got one life to live type of thing. And yeah, we're there and we're here for it. And it's really fun and hard and stressful. Yeah. But goodness, I would much rather do this than anything else.
Yeah, that's good. As we start to land the plane, one of the things
This isn't going to be like a Rogan podcast? I was like 3 hours. Let's do this.
No, not today. No. As we start to land this.
We easily could.
But one of the things we love to ask our guests is there a book? Is there a podcast? Is there something that you're just like consuming right now that you could share with our listeners that's like, hey, this has really transformed me, changed me, given me a new perspective, something that you've got?
I mean, I don't know. I'm a consumer in general. I love consuming. I've been watching, you know, YouTube is probably one of the most consumed platforms now for everyone, whether it's kids or adults. Like we're constantly on YouTube. I've been doing that for 15 years. I've been like in love with YouTube. I love consuming content and learning. Never stop learning is one of like my big life mantras. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't read much, but the things I'm really into right now, talked about BuzzFeed and Barstool. Both of those companies have a consistent piece of content where they kind of show like the back end of that business. Mm-hmm. And that's fascinating for me to watch because to the person who's just, you know, watching Barstool content or BuzzFeed content for the entertainment purposes only, that's good. You know, you watch 99% of the other content, but for the other people that are like, I'm interested how you guys are really doing this.
Yeah.
There's Erica Nardini is the CEO of Barstool, and she has a podcast called Token CEO, where she gives like great professional advice as well as that glimpse into the behind the scenes of Barstool, literally how they make money, you know, because to a lot of people it's a mystery.
Right.
So I love watching content like that, really just to learn how can we be doing what we're doing better, because going back to what I said, there is no blueprint on like what we're doing. So I'm like, I'll take any bit of information I could possibly get from these people who are trying to model it after. But I don't know. I'm just constantly consuming people that I respect or people that I'm trying to emulate.
Yeah.
Somebody said a long time ago, like, you can pay for a business coach, you can do for all these things, but if that business coach has a book, start with that. You know, or start with the podcast. And because there's so much there that you can learn. And so there isn't like a specific thing. I just consume things that could possibly help me hone in on my craft or make what we're doing even better.
That's good. We'll be sure to link to YouTube.
Just youtube.com
just
for
this YouTube. Episode. If you've never heard of it,
it's a small
really
site.
Pretty innovative.
Yeah.
Drew, how can people connect with, you know, Larison Media, the Kokomo Post, with you? How could they maybe find you on social media or connect with some of the things online?
Yeah. I mean, the Kokomo Post, we're kind of all over. You can go kokomopost.com, always where it's kind of like all of our content is all centered. Obviously, Facebook, everything's just at the Kokomo Post, where you can find us there. Larison Media is the same way, at Larison Media, Larison, 1 R. Big mistake people make. It's fine. Larison.
Interesting.
There's also Larson's and my grandpa had a theory that at one point we were all related, and there was just typos along the line, and they just went with it because there's Larisons with 2 R's, 1 R, and Larsons with no I. So it's anyway. And it's just my socials are just Mr. Drew Larison, it's really funny. When I first started my career, I wanted to be the anti-professional professional. So the Mr. was kind of like sarcastic, but I kind of stuck with it. So I, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Mr. Drew Larison is the handle for that.
Awesome.
Well, we want to thank all of you for tuning into this episode, and we want to thank you, Drew, for joining us today of the 4 Everyday Leaders podcast. We hope it helps you lead in the everyday spaces and moments of life.
Yeah, and we would love to have you continue to join us on the 4 Everyday Leaders podcast journey. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube. Drew, thanks for making the drive.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming down here, spending time with us. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, man.